Okay, thanks Echo, Tony, and Mark for your wonderful opening speech. The discussion about a successful case study between ImaginAb and DC Pharma, hosted by Echo Hindle-Yang and two panelists, Ian Wilson, the CEO of ImaginAb, and Chong, the head of BD division from DC Pharma. Let's welcome the panel discussion.
Today, I'm very pleased to join by Mr. Ian Wilson, CEO of ImaginAb, and Mr. Chong, Head of Business Development and DC Pharm, to discuss their recent successfully commercial partnership to launch ImaginAb's CD8 emerging PET technology into Greater China market. Welcome Ian and Don. How are you? Thanks for joining me to share your successful experience with the audience.
Thank you, Echo.
Thank you, Echo.
So, Ian, since you become the CEO in 2019, and ImaginAb has been announced news all the time. I look at your website today. Actually, just June, you have the news announced probably every week. And so during this, despite all the difficulties caused by this pandemic, can I call you the pandemic CEO, literally? And so ImaginAb almost like every month have the news since you announced to be the CEO. And so you have built the collaborations with Merck, Roche, AZ, Pfizer, Takeda, and many the collaboration deals with the biotech companies around the world. Really, congratulations on your achievement. So I think this is the really right time and also the good time for you to share what's your secret to help ImaginAb to make all the achievement in such a short time and such a difficult time.
Echo, thank you for the wonderful comments. So yeah, I suppose I should give a little background about ImaginAb and myself before we go into this meeting. So ImaginAb is a 14-year-old company, a biotech company based in Los Angeles. The name ImaginAb really tells you the foundation of the company comes from imaging and antibody. So we use a biological platform to develop radiopharmaceuticals, both diagnostic and radiotherapy. And diagnostic imaging agents have been used by many people, both in pharma companies and in clinical indications to improve clinical decision making. And the deals that you alluded to are with pharma companies who want to use our technology to improve their clinical decision making. So that's how we work with those pharma companies, delivering our CD8 immunopet technology to them, enabling them to use it as a decision making in their clinical trials. I hope that gives you a good understanding of our company.
Let's see, wonderful, and about what's the ImaginAb doing. Actually, it really solve the critical issues for the most unmet needs disease, cancer. So also, do you mind to share more background about yourself? And so what lead yourself today to make such a big achievement?
Yeah, my background has always been in imaging, molecular imaging. I started my career working for a company known as Amersham International, which became GE Healthcare through mergers and acquisitions. And through that, I grew through that company and was at GE for more than 20 years. And after that, I went and started developing working for companies who were developing imaging technology. I worked for a startup company that was focused on optical surgery. And through knowing people in the market, I saw an opportunity to come and work for ImaginAb, and came to work for ImaginAb over 4.5 years ago, because I believed in the technology. I thought the technology and the platform that they had was groundbreaking. And actually the imaging agent they were developing, CD immunopet, could be successful. What we identified very early and what has led to the success of the company and the team is being able, as in your introduction, is being able to have an hybrid model. While we develop the agent and are seeking FDA approval and approval by health authorities around the world, we've been able to seek revenue during our development phase. And so that has actually reduced our cash burden. And thus working with our investors, we can actually, be more effective with the dollars that we get from our investors and the dollars that we get from those pharma companies. And we plow that back into the company to move forward both the CD immunopet agent, but also develop next generation radiopharmaceutical agents that could help with potential treatment of cancer patients.
That's very smart model. And I think that's no wonder your diversity background in the biotech and also the medical device industry, actually the combination make you are so unique for this position. Thanks for your sharing. So Don, as I remember, DC Pharma is your first job out of college when we discussed how you started your career. And this is very unusual in the biotech industry because China have been growing so fast and have been so much changes. So you worked from a technician to be the head of the BD and the medical team, and now is the head of the business development. So you are experienced and also you observed the DC Pharma's growth from the startup biotech company to be the #2 radio pharmaceutical company in China. So what the journey you had with DC Pharma? So do you mind to share your experience and how you help DC Pharma and how you grow with DC Pharma from the startup to today?
Thank you, Echo. I actually work in this field of nuclear medicine for more than 20 years. We started out to do the camera business to promote and sell the pads and the spec since 20 years ago. Then we work on the cyclotron business, and then we started out a national network for the radiopharmacy. And then this company was then acquired by the DC Pharma a few years ago. And then because of DC Pharma is himself a listed company in China, and this DC Pharma started out to make the API for heparin and other products as well, and is one of the biggest API provider worldwide for the heparin. And then they decided to join the nuclear medicine field around 10 years ago, and then start doing different acquisition. So now DC Pharma has become the second largest radiopharmaceutical pharma in China. Yeah, and then we try to establish our ecosystem for this nuclear medicine area from incubating new product to translating to the clinical world, and to have a national manufacturing network, and to provide some clinical research service to the Chinese doctors.
That's wonderful. That's really you can have the historical book about the China, the biotech company to grow in the past 20 years. Is really observed the whole industry grow from nowhere to be today becoming the one of the most important part of the global new drug developers. So I just wonder, because there are so many ex-China biotech companies still come to me, or when we talk about the global expansion, actually why China now is still very common question. Is even actually China have been making the headlines for the past few years, even during this the winter, the biotech winter time, in the past 2 weeks, China's Jimmy Care inked a deal of $650 million with Roche, and Gilead struck another deal is a $455 million deal with Everest. However, this still cannot convince. So today, I invite you have the life experience or example. So why do you make a decision to enter the China market now?
Yeah, so we were lucky to actually partner with your organization, MSQ, in 2019, and we visited China. And when we visited China, we went there looking for partnership. As a small US-based company, we knew that we need to have a company that knew the China market, and we needed to find a partner who understood our technology. And so during that visit, we thought we understood the China market, but it became very apparent, as you said, that there were some very strong growth engines, especially in oncology. There was a strong established ecosystem of oncology companies, and notably companies working in the immuno-oncology space. And it was also that when we were doing those visits, we saw that there was an increasing number of clinical trials ongoing in China, both by China-based companies, but also companies from outside China looking to get their drugs approved in China. Okay, and we were starting to see also that Chinese companies were also having strong global development programs. So as you said in the introduction, we saw that the deals that we had done with companies in the US and Europe, we saw the opportunity to strike such deals in China where they could use our technology in China for clinical trials. I think on top of that, unfortunately, like many developed countries, China has a high incidence of cancer, and many of those cancers have still got a poor survival rate. So again, with that, we need to see that there was an opportunity for growth and an improvement in medical care like the rest of the world. And since we did our visit in 2019, and as you said in your introduction, we've seen an increase in the deal flow with companies doing large deals, as you said, Merck, Roche, Eli Lilly, etc., doing strong growth in those companies, either to collaborate to develop global products or out-license of products to the US and European market. So in all, we saw great potential of growth. You know, we identified it a way that it was no longer one of those classic development cycles that we were all taught. You know, launch a product in the US, follow that by Europe, maybe then follow that by Japan. I think if you put the China market into context, then I don't think you would put it as maybe the third or fourth choice anymore. You could say, well, China has a market potential to be, you know, as high as a European market, and definitely higher than a Japanese or other country market, which naturally made us want to do a partnership in China.
So do you still, like, what was your impression of China in 2019, especially the China radiopharmaceutical companies you visit? Was it like a comparable to the bigger ones here?
I think there were some very similar attributes to the US. In China, there are large, well-funded hospitals and hospital chains where they have state-of-the-art equipment and highly skilled staff. So some of those were, and they had leading KOLs. So very similar to a Western type hospital scenario that we saw. So that in itself was encouraging, that you saw that there was an infrastructure in imaging that was developing. And very similar to the US, those hospitals had different tiers and different capabilities. And then, as Doug said, we saw that there was a strong industrial network of companies working in radiopharmaceuticals. You know, ranging from people who built PET cameras like United Imaging, who are at the forefront of that globally, to companies like DC Pharma, who have established a network of and infrastructure to deliver a nuclear medicine throughout mainland China.
So what are the challenges did you like observe at that time? You were like, oh, that's is a red flag for me. I don't know, may stop me go now. Is it for any?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like anything else, most people may not do something new because they feel it's better to focus on what they have now. So I think the barrier really was, were we ready to go to China? Or did we want to spend our time continuing developing our US markets or European markets? So I don't think there was anything necessarily in China that stopped us doing it. I think the reason that stopped us doing it, as I said at the start, was for us to do it on our own would have been very difficult. We'd have had to establish a team in China with people who knew the China marketplace. So for us, the biggest barrier was that we needed to find the ideal partner to do it with. We knew straight away it's something that we could not do on our own.
So in summary, actually, is your team and your product ready for the market? And the second, this going to China market with a partner want to slow down your development in US or Europe, and the China market is ready to get this product launched to the market, right?
Yeah, I think so, and I'll let Doug comment on this when you're asking me questions. The key thing is that a company needs to know its own marketplace and be specialized in it to know how to develop it correctly. And that, again, that's why you need a partner.
That is really right time, find the right partner, just like a marriage, find the right time, find the right marriage. Thanks for that sharing. And Don, so could you please sharing like 2019, maybe at that time, how do you see the China be ready, or like sharing, like is China ready to licensing to get the innovative radio imaging or therapy product into China?
So our company always try to listen to the clinical needs from the market. So as we all know, since 2019, the immunotherapy has been a great hit in the market, and very much recognized by the reimbursement program, especially as another life-saving approach. So the local made immunotherapy drug has been approved and by the reimbursements, and then so from one survey, I believe that said over 60% of the patients actually believe in PD-1, but when they look at the patients specifically, if they're at the late stage, so it may only 15 to 20% may be effective for that patient. So many pharmaceutical companies want to develop more new drug, and doctors want to know the right strategy for the right patients, and of course the patient want to know whether that is a suitable therapy for them. And especially when we first met with ImaginAb, we understand more about the mechanism. We understand more about T-cell infiltration is the key for cancer cell killing, right? So we understand more about how the CD8 tracer work. So we see the demand for CD8 imaging by pembrolizumab in China. So especially when there are more and more immunotherapy drug under development in China, So they need this diagnostic agent to help to evaluate their clinical trials, to screen the patients, to select the right patients. Yeah, we see the demand for that in China now.
So what will the milestones ImaginAb achieved in the past 2 years convinced you and your team that the CD8 is ready for China market? I remember because back to 2019, that was a little bit early. Do you think that early is because of product or is it because of China infrastructure?
Well, I think it's both. So on one hand, we say the wind of this immunotherapy has been blowing in the last 3 years. So it actually this started in the last few years only. It was not that popular before, right? So this one thing is because of the market trend, and secondly, I think is ImaginAb's development in the last 3 years. 3 years ago, it was only in phase 1, but they completed that. The safety is okay. It's demonstrated. We see that there's the CD8 cell imaging, so that's been proven. So now they have been entered the phase 2 trial, working on the phase 2 trial. So we think we believe in it with these clinical data.
Just what are the regulations change in China make this collaboration in the past 2 years? Because I remember actually 2019, and even we started like to work on the project under 2018 was really like too early. The China regulation is kind of like was not ready for the innovative radiotherapeutics products. So what changes in the past 2 years to make this ready from the regulation perspective?
We heard from some high-ranking officials saying China, after they finish the poor line, so like the poverty line, so people nowadays in China are not only trying to survive, but they want also to make their life quality better. So the Chinese government also at the same time want to make the better regulate for the new drugs, because in the past it has been generic drug mostly, and they want to promote more new developments and more novel drugs. And they have launched since the last 2-3 years. Everyone knows that many new drug regulation approved, especially for radiopharmaceutical. They have launched the regulation or the guideline for the clinical trials. They have launched a guideline for the pre-IND tox evaluation, and they are very supportive to novel drug development in general. So we can say the Chinese population is changing to the demand of a better living, and the Chinese government is supporting more new drugs developing. Yeah, and we just need more tools like CRISPR, the CD8 tracer to help.
Yeah, so we have the huge market and especially the huge number of the patients and need their new drugs, and also China government support to this innovative drug development really made the changes in the past, probably since China joined the ICH in 2017, and then the past 2 years even make more the progress, like centralize the program, procurement program, lower the price of the generic drugs, and improve their environment for the new drug improvement development. That is one of the key important factors. Thanks for the sharing. So according to the news released, like DC Pharma will exclusive commercialization CD8 in China to serve the farmer and the healthcare community. I think that is very creative. The deal structure, especially actually, you don't go to the patients or the hospital director, but you started to serve the farmer and the health care community. So could you please elaborate in the details of this collaboration?
So perhaps I speak a few words first, and then Ian can add more later. So the strategy, we did not invent it. We actually learned it from ImaginAb. We try to help as much as possible in the early phase. So we see the big pharma needs this drug for the clinical trials. So we see ImaginAb is offering this this life science service to develop new drug at the moment, and at the same time, we want to launch this product to the market, make it commercialized. So yeah, that takes a long time for commercialization, right? So we need to do the R&D, the clinical trials in China as well. So while we are working on this, we don't want to waste time. We want to develop the life science market as well. Yeah, just to help more patients as early as possible.
Yeah.
So you want to say?
Sorry, Doug. Yeah, so I would say the reason also it's a collaboration, as Doug said, is that we've completed our phase 1 and phase 2A, and some of that data may be useful for DC Pharma as part of submissions, and also that data may be important for them to share with pharma companies. So the point is that we have learnings that we can pass through to DC Pharma, and they can use that. We're having to repeat very expensive experiments. Also, we want to make sure that we have together that we develop a product that is the same around the globe. We don't want to have differences that people do that because drug companies may do studies in the US, but also the same drug company may want to do a study in China, and may want to compare data. And likewise, clinicians, when it's approved, want to be able to share their experiences on a global footprint. So it's important to ensure that we cross-pollinate and share data. So it's not an arm's length deal where we just signed a piece of paper and said to DC Pharma, thank you, get on with it. We know that there's a commitment for us to both help each other to be successful in each of our own markets.
That's really wonderful. Like what you just described, this is just start of the beginning of the relationship. So, Don, I just wonder. So, can you use the product in China right away? If just like Innovent wanted to use it for the new drug development, or how long will it take this get it into China for the Chinese biotech company or biopharma company to use it?
It's a difficult question. We cannot use it right away. This is the drug. We have to repeat some animal study in China. We have to do the tech transfer, and then we like to do some research study with some researchers in China to demonstrate the value of it to generate the local voice, local recognition in China. Yes, so we're expecting to create some investigator-initiated trial. We talked to many clinicians, and they're pretty much interested in it. So in that case, we think we can help to prove to demonstrate the proof of value of these products before the product launch, because we want as much people recognize the value of the CD8 imaging as early as possible. So this is what we try to do. Regarding the clinical trial duration, well, it takes time. I cannot say how long it takes at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So despite all the data available, what the ImaginAb already developed, actually you still need to follow the new drug development protocol to get it approved in China to step by step.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thanks for that clarification. I just wondered if that we can use it in a different way, so we can start to use it first, like get the real world data, and before we get into the real clinical trial stage.
After the animal study repeated in China and some ethical committee approved by some hospitals, we can definitely willing to start some research trial or research work with it. So that can be started earlier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for that sharing. So I know you just mentioned that you had a trip in China. I remember was very busy. So what were your most important criteria of a China partner by that time, before you went to China?
So yeah, so why, in so many words, why did we end up with DC Pharma? Maybe let's ask it ask it that way. So I think, when we looked at what we said is that we saw the potential that you could sell this to what we call the life science market, so to pharmaceutical companies, and we saw the potential for it to be used in clinical practice. So as Doug said in his introduction, DC Pharma has, developed over many years, and part of that family was a company called Metro that, could provide life science services. So we saw an automatic relationship that they were already starting to think about the provision of radiopharmaceuticals to the life science community and pharma companies. And secondly, the important thing is that, radiopharmaceuticals are very short-lived. They don't last very long. With our product, it's got a shelf life of around 6 days. So that means you've got to make it on demand, and you've got to be able to distribute it to centers. And during our conversations with Dongcheng, we soon realized that they had the infrastructure to manufacture and distribute to, I think, greater than, and please correct me, Doug, greater than 85% of the China population, which ticked a box. And on top of that, they DC Pharma had a strong breadth of personnel who knew nuclear medicine. So when you take it into that, the company automatically, we thought, had the capability and leverage to deliver and develop the product both to the life science and healthcare market. And that's why we thought, they would be an ideal partner for us.
Since you work together, do you think this partner selection criteria can be universal for when you select all the partners, or this is very just for China because of China's situation?
I think for any market, you've got to be able to understand that the market may be different. So as an example, one of the key indications for our product in the US and Europe is probably patients who suffer from melanoma. While in China, there aren't many melanoma patients. It's not a high priority. It's not a cancer by incidence. So we couldn't go to China and say, hey, let's do a clinical trial in melanoma. That is the wrong thing to do. But by working with DC Pharma could understood the cancer landscape and understand probably which is the better indications to develop. So I think whoever you partner with and where they are in the world, you've got to step back and listen to them, for them to explain how the product would be used in their marketplace, because they know it the best. And on top of that, there is, from that big difference in cancer demographics, the other big difference is probably in reimbursement and pricing of drugs in China compared to other markets. So, we could have said, oh, we think it should be priced the same as what we expect in the US or Europe. But with a partner, you can go through those costs. And as Doug said, you can also look at actually where the development costs and development path may be different. So I think, yes, there are things that are different about China, but in any partnership, if you don't listen to the partner's knowledge of their marketplace, then I don't think you're ever going to have a successful partnership and be able to develop your drug correctly in that marketplace.
Actually, this is my first time listen to the partners. It can be the very good suggestion, especially when you want to get into the new market to leverage the local partners' expertise about the market and also their understanding of the local regulations and reimbursement. I think that is really one of the best suggestions that I heard today so far. And so now just when you look at when you get this CDA, so what's the synergies of the two companies can develop this product into China, or what I think this is started your relationship, right? And so what do you see the strategic synergy behind this collaboration?
Well, in general speaking, as a company dedicated in radiopharmaceutical, we need more products. So this is the first and obvious reason we need more products. And but why about this product? Because we understand about the zirconium-89, this isotope, for quite some years. So we see the developed trend of radiopharmaceutical since the last 20 years. So it started out to be the conventional reactor type of isotope, and then it switched to the cyclotron short half-life, which is like 2 hours, the F-18 type of isotope. But as the drug development emerge, we need more isotope that fits with the biological half-life of the bigger molecule. So we see now we're having this antibody at ImaginAb is very specific antibody, and we need it has a relative longer half-life, and it has to work with the zirconium-89 isotope, which has also a similar physical half-life. So this is a very good match, and we are very familiar with this zirconium in the last 10 years, because DC Pharma has been trying to provide a total solution to the market. So we sell the drug, we provide a cyclotron solution to help the hospital to build their own in-house research facility. So we've been working on this zirconium for quite some time. And with our national network, around 20 radiopharmacy in place, and also more than 10 radiopharmacies under construction now, we believe we can build this production capacity easily. Yeah, so we're familiar with this isotope. We can add this product to our platform easily. So this is kind of, we are ready when we first talked with Ian about this ImaginAb product. And on top of that, we don't only sell the new drug or sell new provide solution to to the hospital, we also try to set up a good ecosystem for the market. So we have a subsidiary called Metro. It stands for Molecular Imaging Translation Cell. So we really try to help more to bring more new tracers, some good tracers to the market. And at Metro, we have a team of more than 100 people working on the animal study, working on the clinical studies to help to bring more new tracers to the market from the registration point of view, and also to initiate some research study at the beginning. So we are also ready from that point of view as well.
So it sounds like a very easy, like a DC farmer need a product. Imagine if it app need a new market, so you two click and you make this happen. But I know this is not easy. It's a lot of the challenges and difficulties behind it, not only because this is a very special product, the high regulated under the supply chain issue, and but also the pandemic made the two of you couldn't even meet in person during this transaction discussion. So what are the top challenges you faced to close this transaction?
Yeah, I think as Doug said, you know, the real thing is that we had to build trust, and we had to understand each other's thinking, right? Sometimes people say things and it may have a different meaning or a different understanding. So I don't think we did anything special. We went down standard business relationships. We agreed a term sheet like most people do, that then led to which allowed us to use that to develop a contract and go through contract negotiations. Yes, it was difficult because the teams were separated, but I think we got pretty good at webinars and web calls by the end of it, and we had to choose who would stay up late, who would get up early. It was, I think we did that as a lottery sometimes. But I think we all have to live with time zone. Time zone was nothing to do with COVID. I think that's just the way of modern business. But I think really it was being able to articulate and trust, and that both of us could then talk to our respective stakeholders and move the process through in good time. So nothing really special, I don't think. Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like normal. I think there's a lot of work. So one thing I just wondered, like because this due diligence is more complicated than others, right? And there is, because it's the first, if I think this is the first innovative the radio therapeutics product getting into China from outside of China. So in what was the because you care about the clinical trial, actually there's a lot of the still have the question about the China's the clinical data in China, and also the transparent the regulation in China. So how did you convince your team and your board about you did enough due diligence without going there?
Is that question to me? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't think as I said, we visited in 2019, wasn't it, with you? And I think we knew that. Dongcheng, DC Pharma is a publicly listed company. As a publicly listed company, there are records available regarding that, right? So a lot of that due diligence is available as public record. Okay, so like any other publicly listed company in the world. So I think that was and Doug asked those questions. So in our due diligence, it was really about Dongcheng's capability to deliver the product to the majority of the China population, which Doug explained with their investment, expertise and infrastructure, that they are very capable to deliver that. So for us, our due diligence, was very simple in those regards. I think the only difference that was different for us is that we hired a legal team who had experience with doing deals in China. So sure that we had a legal team that had people based in China who understood Chinese contracts and could actually, if we got to problems, actually talk in the mother tongue to the Dongcheng guys about what we meant. Because of course, as you would expect, the contract was written in English. And so we had to make sure that some of the language terms were reflected and equal across that language. And we had to agree those kind of things. So yeah, I think, I don't think it was an arduous process for us at all. It just took maybe a little longer than we both expected. I don't know if that's true, Doug, but it just took a bit longer because we had to, sometimes wait to get everyone on a call at the right time. We couldn't, fly to China, or the team couldn't fly to the US, where we could have all got in a room and spent a day all together to sort it out. So we had to do it in hourly or 2-hourly meetings to get things done.
So this pandemic really trained us to do the things virtually, no matter how big or how small, right?
Yeah. Yes,
well, that's very good, great variable suggest insights how you close this transaction and did all the due diligence. And so Don, so how from your side, what was the challenge?
Yes, the distance caused by this COVID is one of the thing. It is kind of slow down the progress a little bit. But other than that, I think because when both parties have the intention to work together, we actually solve many questions, many problems together. So it's not big of a challenge together. From our side, is a regularly practice that we have to do the financial viability check. We have to do the economics calculation. That's the standard thing. Well, if you really want to point out one thing that is a little challenge for us is the new concept of CD8 imaging, because it's not much people there are not much people familiar with this idea. So we spend quite some time understanding the mechanism of it. We try to understand the value of it. We did lots of interviews, virtually, with people in Europe, in the States, in China. Yeah, and at the end of the day, when we pretty confirmed that doctors want to see the cancer microenvironments, and T cell is a drug, and doctors want to look at the whole body, because whole body has, like, we call the heterogeneous situation of the cancer. So we don't know which part is work with this drug and which part might not work with this drug. We want to see the whole body as a whole, and this CD8 imaging really give lots of information to the doctors. From the patient point of view, I would like to use this drug for family and friends. So this is a very good understanding of the mechanism. And after that, yeah, we don't have much challenge.
That's wonderful. And this pandemic cannot stop like a global drug development. We have to unite it together to develop more. And so because of time, I just have a last question. I think we already touched here and there, but maybe Don, you just have a summary. How will DC Pharma's infrastructure advance CDA's commercialization in China?
So we have a subsidiary under DC Pharma called DCAMS. So it operates a radiopharmaceutical distribution network in China. We have like a total 27 sites in operation and around 14 sites under construction at the moment. So we'll be using this. We're planning to expand the production and manufacturing capacity with this network, and we like to as fast as possible supply this CD8 immunotracer to wider scope of landscape in China. Yeah.
That's is kind of like a very solid plan in place already. So thanks for that sharing. So to wrap up our today's conversation, I would invite Yin and Don to forecast the global collaboration in the next maybe 5 years. So what do you forecast? This is how because these are all the politicals and there is decentralized, and how this global collaboration should be like help develop the new drugs.
Yeah, well, I hope that, DC Pharma, in the short time we've worked with them, they're a great partner, and as ImaginAb as a company that develops novel, imaging agents and radiopharmaceuticals, I'm sure Doug will not be surprised he'll be the first person I phone saying, we've got a new agent, do you want to develop it in China? So I hope that, our partnership can develop beyond CD8. I think is, would be one wish for myself. I think the other one would be that, like oncology therapy discovery, which is now a driving engine within China. Who's not to say that radiopharmaceuticals, imaging and therapy will not start to be developed from ground up and move the other way. So who knows that in the future that, like what you said at the start, Echo, that we're going to see products that are being developed in China first, then emerging and being developed on a global footprint. So why that cannot happen in our space, I cannot see any reason to block that. So that would be my expectations, that I can offer products back to Doug, and maybe one day they phone us up and say, would imagine I'd like to develop a product in the US that they've developed.
So I think there are lots of synergy between our two companies. For the CD8 tracer, we already share many clients or customers together because we serve the same group of people. We serve the same group of big pharma. We serve them to develop the new drug. We serve the patient. So I think together with ImaginAb, we can provide kind of a global solution on this imaging tracer supply. Yep. So we can provide a Chinese in China, and then some Chinese customer may ask us whether they want to have a global trial. Can we do that? Like, if we talk to Ian, then yes, we can do with the same protocol. We can offer the same solution. Right? So we see more collaboration together with ImaginAb in the future. Yes, we are definitely for new product. We're looking forward to see more new tracer developed by ImaginAb. Yeah, we'll discuss more, because when we as we establish more production capacity for the zirconium-89 in China, so we really have a source of isotope supply nationally. So with this source of zirconium in China, yeah, we can serve more new antibody product, right? So this is one of the reasons that we see there's a possibility for us working on more new things together.
That's really amazing. Like in create such as a hybrid dual structure help the ImaginAb to be so successful quickly in the past 2 years or 2 or 3 years. And now I think DC Pharma will advance such success in China. So we are really looking forward to more the good news from both. And congratulations again on this successful transaction and collaboration. And we looking forward to the more good news. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone to join us today.
Bye-bye.
Bye.